After 12 years at Elon Musk's side, I thought I'd seen it all. Rockets exploding, timelines collapsing, deals breaking in the middle of the night. But nothing prepared me for that moment. It was supposed to be a routine engine test at SpaceX. Late night, minimal crew, quiet, until everything went silent. The engine stopped mid-ignition. Not because it failed, but because someone shut it down, manually. When I checked the security feed, my heart dropped. I knew that face. I wasn't supposed to see it. I wasn't supposed to know. I packed my things that night. I wrote Elon a single letter, and I walked out. What I revealed in that letter changed everything. You don't just become Elon Musk's assistant. You earn it. Through blood, sweat, and more nights crying in a bathroom stall than I care to admit. 12 years ago, I was nobody. Just another overqualified, underpaid Ivy League graduate hustling through endless startup jobs in Silicon Valley. I was smart, yes, ambitious. But in a world where ambition was currency, I was still bankrupt. My life changed on a rainy Tuesday. I was working as an operations coordinator at a failing AI company, the kind of job that promised equity and career growth, but delivered 10-hour days and cold brew coffee as compensation. That morning, I was the only one who showed up after the CEO sent a 3 a.m. Slack about an emergency. When I fixed a server outage by hot wiring an office router and rerouting cloud traffic manually, someone noticed. That someone was Grayson, a friend of a friend who happened to be a recruiter for SpaceX. "Ever thought about working for Elon?" he asked me 2 days later. I thought he was joking. I laughed in his face. He wasn't. The interview process was brutal. 12 rounds, psychological profiling, situational problem solving under time constraints. One test involved managing a fictional space launch with a fuel leak, a sick engineer, and a VIP on the floor. I solved it in 11 minutes. 3 days later, I was flown to Hawthorne. They told me I was interviewing for a logistics coordinator role. But the moment I walked into the glass conference room and saw him sitting there, black t-shirt, unreadable stare, fingers tapping a Tesla prototype notebook, I knew. This wasn't about logistics. He didn't look up when I entered. Just said, "You're 5 minutes early. That's good. What would you do if our engine exploded tomorrow and we had a press conference in 1 hour?" I answered. Honestly, ruthlessly. With a contingency plan, crisis communications breakdown, and stakeholder map. He listened. For 47 minutes, he asked. I answered. At the end, he just said, "You start Monday." I didn't realize I'd just accepted a position that didn't even exist on paper yet. Executive assistant was the title. Shadow was more accurate. I handled everything. Scheduling, coordinating press, signing off on minor contracts, prepping him for board meetings, managing vendor delays, slipping melatonin into his energy drink when he hadn't slept in 3 days. He trusted me, and I trusted him. People think being Elon Musk's assistant is all rockets and red carpets. It's not. It's bleeding into your laptop at 2 a.m. It's managing 5 time zones at once. It's catching typos in SpaceX contracts that could cost billions. It's getting screamed at by a supplier in Shanghai while texting his son's soccer coach and negotiating a PR leak at the same time. But I loved it. Or maybe I loved what it made me feel. Important. Needed. Powerful, even. In my own quiet way. Over time, I became more than an assistant. I was his confidant, his filter, his fixer. I knew about his fears, his father, his breakdowns. I knew the real reason behind the Falcon 9 delays. I knew who betrayed him during the Neuralink trials. I knew what happened behind closed doors at that off-site in Geneva, the one no one talks about. And maybe that's why it hurt so much when I realized what they'd done. What he had done. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let's go back. Before the incident, before the silence, before the cameras, before the letter, back when I still believed I was part of something greater, back when I thought loyalty meant something, back when I was still just his assistant. I remember the sound before I saw anything, a low metallic groan, like the breath of a sleeping giant, trembling under the weight of something unspeakably wrong. It came from Hangar 39, the restricted bay reserved for prototype builds Elon didn't even trust his board with. I wasn't supposed to be there. Not that night. But Elon had called me. 2:47 a.m., his voice hoarse, urgent. "They moved the Falcon XP test early. Come to the hangar. Now!" That was it. No details. No assistant should be summoned into a secure zone at that hour, not even me, the one person with the clearance and the trust to be by his side without a second thought. But I'd learned early on that working for Elon meant ignoring rules everyone else feared to break. So I went. I stepped into the cavernous bay, heart pounding. The overhead lights were dim, flickering, casting distorted shadows on the sleek, unfinished frame of the XP rocket. It looked like a beast in chains, incomplete but alive. Elon stood beside it, tense, his phone pressed to his ear, barking into it in clipped, furious tones. "Shut it down! I said shut it down! I don't care what he threatened. This is not negotiable." I'd never heard him sound like that. Not desperate, Elon never panicked, but something close, cold rage, fear wrapped in control. His eyes locked on me as he ended the call. "You didn't see this," he said, but of course I had. Because just then, behind the towering steel supports, I caught a glimpse of someone else. A man I didn't recognize. Government, by the look of the badge on his lapel, watching us, listening. Elon didn't notice. Or maybe he did and was pretending not to. He walked toward me, his face hard. "You're going to get a call tomorrow from Public Affairs. They'll tell you the XP project is suspended. It's not. They'll tell you the test never happened. It did. Don't ask questions." "Elon, what happened?" I whispered. He paused. His expression, usually unreadable, cracked just for a second. "They want to weaponize it." Those 4 words. They changed everything. It wasn't the first time whispers of military contracts had floated through our corridors, but this wasn't about contracts. This was black ops level, buried budget stuff. Something deep state. And Elon? He wasn't cooperating. Not willingly. "They brought someone in," he said. "Someone from DARPA. They accessed our propulsion logs, tampered with guidance protocols. I tried to lock them out. That's why I needed you here. In case something happened to me." He handed me a sleek black flash drive. "You keep this, and don't ever plug it into anything connected to the SpaceX network." I stared at it. I didn't want to touch it. I didn't want to know. "Why me?" I asked, barely able to speak. "Because I trust you more than I trust my board." That was the moment I realized I wasn't just an assistant anymore. I was a witness, and maybe collateral. The next day was chaos disguised as calm. Everyone pretended the launch had been postponed for safety evaluation. But I saw the engineers whispering, the locked conference rooms, the classified folders moving between hands like hot coals. And Elon? He didn't come in. His absence said more than any press release. That night, my phone rang again. Unknown number. No voice, just static. And then a digitally distorted message. "You have something that doesn't belong to you." I froze. The drive was in my bag, sealed inside a sunglasses case, now burning a hole through my life. I knew then. Whatever was on that drive was bigger than a rocket. Bigger than SpaceX. Maybe even bigger than Elon himself. I tried to return it. I drove straight to Elon's private residence. But his security wouldn't let me in. The usual guards were replaced. Cold, professional, no eye contact. Something had shifted, something irreversible. The next week was a blur of paranoia. My login credentials were revoked without warning. My internal email access, disabled. My badge, flagged for security review. HR said it was routine. Elon stopped answering my calls. His number went straight to voicemail. And the worst part? The message came again. Same voice, this time with a warning. "We don't want her. We want what she has. But if she talks, she disappears." I didn't know who "we" was. I didn't want to. But one thing was clear. If I stayed silent, I'd be safe. If I opened my mouth, I'd vanish like the others. Except, silence wasn't something I could live with anymore. The breaking point came when I discovered the truth behind the XP prototype's mission specs. Not from Elon, not from SpaceX, but from a contact I never thought I'd reach out to, my ex, Will, who now worked in aerospace compliance. I traded the one thing I had left, my pride, for information. What he showed me? Proof that the XP wasn't meant to reach orbit. It was programmed to fail. A controlled detonation, a sacrifice, public failure to mask private success. The XP would never launch. But its engine technology was already being replicated by a defense contractor Elon had supposedly refused to partner with. He said no, Will told me, but someone at SpaceX said yes for him. A leak, an inside betrayal, maybe even a coup. Elon had lost control of his own creation, and now I had the last key to it all. I quit the next day, not with a resignation letter, with silence. I left my badge on the desk. I left the building without looking back. and I took the drive with me. What came next would become the story the world wasn't ready for, but they were about to hear it. I thought the hardest part would be walking out, leaving behind the years of loyalty, pressure, privilege, and proximity to one of the most powerful men on the planet. But I was wrong. The hardest part came after. The world didn't just react, it exploded. The morning after I submitted my resignation letter and turned off my phone, I woke up to over 100 missed calls. Friends, journalists, even distant relatives I hadn't spoken to in years. My name, my real name, was trending. That's when I knew. Elon had read the letter, and someone had leaked it. Somehow, the contents of my personal resignation, everything I had written about what I witnessed, what I endured, what I could no longer stay silent about, had made it to the public. The exact words weren't there, but the implications were. SpaceX whistleblower, Elon Musk's closest aide quits after shocking incident, mystery letter hints at internal chaos. Every major news outlet had a headline. Every photo of me from company events or staff dinners was now plastered across the internet. I had become the story. At first I was terrified. I wasn't prepared for the spotlight. I had always been the woman in the corner. Quiet, efficient, unnoticed unless you needed something done. I liked it that way. But now people were dissecting my LinkedIn, speculating about my intentions, my character, my endgame. Some praised me. She's brave. She's standing up for the truth. Finally, someone on the inside speaks out. Others, not so much. Attention seeker. She probably wanted a book deal. Just another bitter employee. But nothing prepared me for what happened next. Within 3 days, I was approached by a former SpaceX engineer, someone I hadn't spoken to in over a year. He messaged me anonymously, using an encrypted app. All he said was, "I read your letter. You weren't the only one." That single message unlocked a flood. One by one, former employees, mostly women, some men, began to reach out. Some were crying, some were angry, some were just grateful that someone had finally said something. They started sharing their own stories: long hours, isolation, casual disrespect, pressure to stay silent when things crossed the line. One woman described having her work credited to a male colleague repeatedly. Another said she was warned that speaking up about misconduct would damage the mission, the same mission I had believed in, that we all had. I realized then that my letter wasn't just mine anymore. It had become a mirror, a spark, a catalyst. That week, I was asked to appear on 2 major talk shows. I refused both. I wasn't ready, not yet. I wasn't doing this for fame. I had walked away because I had to, not because I wanted applause. But then came the subpoena. A congressional subcommittee had taken interest in whistleblower claims surrounding SpaceX. They wanted testimony. They wanted details. And whether I liked it or not, I was now a central figure. Elon never responded publicly. Not once. No tweets. No statements. Nothing. But silence from him was never just silence, it was strategy. Behind the scenes, I heard rumors of internal investigations, that managers were being interviewed, that NDAs were being reinforced, that employees were told not to mention my name. And yet, they did. I received an anonymous note on my doorstep, handwritten in delicate block letters. It said, "You reminded us we are not machines. Thank you." That was the moment I broke down. All the fear, guilt, shame, and anxiety I'd carried for months came pouring out. Because for the first time, I understood the ripple I had created. This wasn't just about Elon, or SpaceX, or even me. It was about what happens when one person finally says, "enough," and people listen. The moment I walked out of the SpaceX compound, something in me shattered. Not from fear, not even from heartbreak, from clarity. I realized in that instant that my entire identity, the woman who once lived and breathed SpaceX, who answered every 2 a.m. call, who rearranged the galaxy to keep Elon's world spinning, no longer existed. I was done. But quitting Elon Musk isn't like quitting a normal job. You don't just sign a letter, shake a hand, and disappear into the background. You vanish, or you fight. I chose the first. For now, I didn't even go home. I couldn't. I'd seen the same black sedan parked outside my apartment 2 nights in a row. I told myself it was paranoia, until I spotted the same vehicle idling outside the cafe where I met Will. Same tinted windows, same dented license plate. That wasn't coincidence, so I did what no one expected of me. I ghosted. I left my phone in the back of a rideshare, wiped and disabled. I used cash. I wore sunglasses in the airport and bought a last-minute ticket under a name I hadn't used in years, my mother's maiden name. My heart pounded like a drum the entire time, but no alarms were raised. Not yet. I flew to Reykjavik, somewhere no one would look first, and I disappeared into white. The snow was a comfort. It blanketed everything. My past, my panic, my guilt. I rented a tiny cabin just outside the city, no Wi-Fi, barely any cell reception. Just my laptop, the encrypted drive, and the silence I had once feared. Now it was all I had. I didn't sleep for 2 days. I stared at that drive, unsure if opening it would damn me or save me. But curiosity is stronger than caution. So I plugged it in, on a machine I'd bought with cash, completely offline. The contents were password protected, of course. But Elon wasn't exactly creative with passphrases. It was the same code he used for almost everything since 2015. Starman never sleeps. It worked. What I saw next stopped my breath cold. Schematics, video logs, conversations, memos between SpaceX engineers and outside operatives. Plans for a modular propulsion system capable of reaching lunar orbit in half the cost and half the time of any existing rocket. And one document marked Autonomous Payload Expansion Defense Clearance Alpha. In plain terms, they'd repurposed the Falcon XP into a weapons platform. They had removed Elon's personal kill switch, and according to the timestamps, they'd done it without his authorization. I needed to tell someone. But who do you tell when the people responsible are the ones who would silence you for telling? I couldn't trust the press. Not yet. Not with the way tech billionaires sway narratives with a single tweet. And this wasn't just about Elon anymore. This was bigger. If I leaked the files, would I start a war, ruin innocent lives? But if I stayed silent, the world would never know what was being built in the shadows of ambition. My hands shook as I wrote the first draft of my statement. I didn't address it to the public, not yet. I wrote it as a letter to Elon. Dear Elon, you once told me I was the only one you trusted. I wonder if that's still true. You also told me that ideas are more powerful than men, that what we build must never outgrow our conscience. Well, something has outgrown yours, and you may not even know it. I have the files, the communications, the schematics, and the truth. I don't want to destroy SpaceX. I believed in it. I believed in you. But I can't let the truth die in a hangar. I'm giving you 7 days. Make it right, or I will. She who vanished, I never sent it. Because the next morning there was a knock on the door of my cabin. No footsteps in the snow, no tire tracks. Just a single white envelope slid under the door. Inside, one photo of me, taken the day before, walking back from the market. Zoomed in, crystal clear, on the back, written in sharp black ink. You're not that hard to find. I knew then that running wasn't safety. It was delay. They were watching, waiting to see if I'd break. But they didn't understand who I had become. Because yes, Elon's world had made me sharper, faster, harder. But it had also taught me something far more dangerous: how to survive. I no longer had access to his schedule, his codes, or his empire. But I had his secrets. And in this world, secrets are currency. I just had to decide who deserved to spend them. That's when I found her. Maya Tran, investigative journalist, exposed 2 defense contractors in 2022. Nearly got herself killed doing it. She'd gone underground after that, but I found her through a Reddit AMA she'd done under a fake name. I reached out with a single line. Do you believe in rockets that carry more than satellites? She replied in 8 minutes. If you're who I think you are, I've been waiting for this. We arranged a meeting in Oslo, neutral territory. I carried no tech, just a printed copy of the critical documents. She brought her own security. Smart woman. When I handed her the file, she looked at me and said, If this goes live, you'll never be able to come back. I smiled. I'm not coming back anyway. I'm still hiding. For now. But every day I check the news. Every day I watch for headlines. Every day I wait to see if Elon will speak or stay silent. Because when this story breaks, the world will finally understand. The woman who handed him his coffee every morning, she was also the one who held the detonator to his silence. And the countdown has already begun. The leak dropped at 8:04 a.m. Eastern Standard Time on a quiet Tuesday morning. No one saw it coming. No press teaser, no rumors, no cryptic tweets. Just a headline on a little-known investigative blog that suddenly exploded across every social media platform. Exclusive. Secret SpaceX program repurposed rockets for defense use without oversight. Within 30 minutes, the servers crashed from traffic. By noon, CNN, BBC, Al Jazeera, and even state-backed networks in China were citing it. But it wasn't until the name Elon Musk appeared in the body of the article, connected not by guilt, but by omission, that the firestorm truly ignited. The documents were damning. Internal memos from senior engineers detailing classified upgrades to the Falcon XP system that bypassed federal protocols. Evidence that top-level clearance had been forged. And the real dagger? A series of recorded video calls between a former SpaceX exec and a private defense firm discussing payload adjustments for strategic use cases, the kind of use cases that could turn satellites into surveillance weapons. All of it verified, authenticated, time-stamped, and all of it leaked, anonymously. But people weren't stupid. They started asking who had access to that kind of information. Who was close enough to see everything yet invisible enough to escape notice? And that's when they found me. Not my name, not my face, but the gaps. Bloggers uncovered that I'd disappeared. No forwarding info, no new job, no social footprint. Someone with full clearance, gone without a trace after over a decade. They called me the ghost of SpaceX. And as the media firestorm grew, so did the public pressure on Elon. At first he stayed quiet. No tweets, no interviews. For 3 full days, silence. But then the press conference came. I watched it from a small cafe in Prague, wearing a scarf and sunglasses. The TV above the counter flickered with static before sharpening into the familiar face I once saw daily, now tired, paler, lips pressed into that tight, unreadable line. He looked like a man holding back a hurricane. "Some of the claims that have surfaced this week are disturbing," he said. "I want to make one thing clear. I did not authorize the militarization of our rockets." He paused. "But I can't deny that someone inside my company may have." He didn't defend. He didn't attack. But then he said something that made my blood run cold. "I believe this leak came from someone I once trusted more than anyone else. Someone who knew the weight of what we built. And if they are watching, I want them to know. I understand now." Understand what? The guilt, the betrayal, the scope of the empire he had lost control of? Or the fact that he'd bred a machine so big not even he could stop it anymore? He didn't say, but I saw the shift in his eyes. This wasn't the Elon who launched Teslas into orbit for fun. This was a man who had stared into the abyss and finally recognized the monster staring back. Overnight, government agencies launched investigations. The Department of Defense issued a formal inquiry. Congress called for closed-door hearings. Anonymous sources confirmed that multiple international agencies, including NATO and the EU Space Council, were reviewing security vulnerabilities posed by private space firms. And then the arrests started. 3 senior engineers, 1 project lead, and the former COO, caught trying to board a private jet to Dubai with a briefcase full of burner phones. The world watched SpaceX unravel from the inside out. But through it all, no one ever named me. I thought I'd feel vindicated. I didn't. I felt hollow, because justice doesn't undo fear, and the truth doesn't erase the years I gave, body and soul, to something that no longer remembered my name. But I didn't do it for revenge. I did it so the world would see that even empires built to reach Mars still answer to Earth's laws. That no one, no matter how brilliant or untouchable, should be allowed to hide weapons behind satellites and dreams. Especially not in the name of progress. And yet, something unexpected happened. People started writing letters, hundreds of them, thousands. Not to me, I was still anonymous, but for me. They published open thank yous on forums, created artwork, sent encrypted messages to SpaceX insiders. Some said I was a traitor, but most, they called me brave. One note stood out. It was left as a comment on a Reddit post. "To whoever risked everything to protect the sky, thank you. You saved more than just data, you saved faith." I read it 5 times, and for the first time in months, I cried. Then a package arrived. No return address. Just a sleek white box, hand-delivered to the small flat I'd been renting under an alias. Inside, a single item, a phone, old model, wiped, powered off. I stared at it for hours. Eventually, I turned it on. Only one thing was on the screen, a message. "The stars miss you." It was signed. I don't know what he meant. Was it guilt? Forgiveness? A plea? Or was it a warning? I may never know. But what I do know is this. my story isn't over, and neither is his. Because the day I stepped away from SpaceX, I thought I was escaping a machine, but I wasn't. I was becoming something else entirely.